All right, ready? I don't care about your feelings.
That was so off. You'd be left of Lenin.
I can't believe you said that. Oh, jeez.
You have no power here.
What? Just two brothers.
It's just two brothers.
All right, we're back again with another episode of Just Two Brothers. This episode's going to be just slightly different than the last. We're going to have more of a theme to this episode. We're going to be covering a little bit of a George Orwell writing of Animal Farm. We're going to be talking primarily about leftists and government hypocrisy at its finest. This pandemic has given us a lot of examples to cover on just exactly how the government wants you to follow the rules, but not them. And we're going to also bring a new element to the show called the Daily Dumpster Fire, which we'll talk about that later. So, where are we on this whole comparison of Animal Farm to today's current events?
Well, I mean, you've read George Orwell. So have I. A lot of people think that he was really prophetic. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I think he seems prophetic to us today because he was so in tune with what was happening with the Soviet Union. And that just kind of seems prophetic to us today. So a lot of people talk about 1984, but what we're talking about today is Animal Farm. And the perverse story of the twisted rise of communism in the Soviet Union.
So I think part of the reason why it comes across as being prophetic is because history repeats itself. This book was written in 1944. By that time the Bolsheviks had overthrown the government in Russia. You know, they had the whole. You know, it was all divided up with kings and queens and royalty and that whole type of government. And the people overthrew that, similar to what they did in France, except it was maybe even a little bit more extreme. Their good buddy Lenin was the guy in control at the time until he passed on, and that torch got passed to just a wonderful leader, Joseph Stalin. Who did some just great things, like everybody would want to have, communism done not quite right, I would suspect. I'm being facetious. Communism is never done right. There is no way to do it correctly. But that's the basis of the story. That's how it appears to be prophetic, because it's just history repeating itself. They replaced this government. They replaced the government in Russia, and then ultimately they ended up with something that was as bad or probably worse. I would suspect worse. And that's where we are. That's how he came to that. How that the origin of the story for people, for those of you in Portland.
Portland. I think it's a great display of how oftentimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They're utopian theories that, built on humanitarian grounds that might sound good on paper, when they meet the hard tar of reality that humans are imperfect beings and we're inherently flawed creatures. And when you try and mix the two, it's like mixing water and oil, and eventually the results are, often condemn you to a worse form of hell than you originally had, which is exactly what you were kind of saying. In this book, we see this play out with the pigs, which were kind of considered the ruling class of Animal Farm, aka the Soviet Union. When after the revolution, the animals, led by the pigs, mind you, start making the rules that all the animals must follow, called the 7 Commandments of Animalism. And the rules kind of went like this. It said it's 7 Commandments of Animalism. Rule number 1, whatever goes on 2 legs is enemy. Rule number 2, whatever goes on 4 legs is or has wings is friend. 3, no animal shall wear clothes. 4, no animal shall sleep in a bed. 5, no animal shall drink alcohol. 6, no animal shall kill any other animal. And 7, all animals are created equal. So for them, I'm sure that sounded good on paper. Again, idealistic standards. But, you know, what is one man's tool is another man's weapon. And we see this play out because over time, the pigs, which were the upper crust elite, slowly change every single one of the commandments to their own benefit until the rules are completely unrecognizable. And so by the end of the book, those rules change from 7 commandments of animalism to the 5 commandments of animalism. And it went like this. 1, 4 legs good, 2 legs better. 2, no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. 3, no animal shall drink alcohol to excess. 4, no animal shall kill any other animal without cause. 5, no animal, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
So some animals are a little more equitable.
Yeah.
I think
Equitable
is what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that word was at the time that George Orwell wrote it, but he should have put it right in there because that's exactly what he's talking about. We're talking about equity, in a sense. You know, and it's kind of funny because eventually the pigs became mirror images of the masters, aka the humans, that the pigs thought they had rid themselves of. You know, and by the end of the book, the pigs were walking on 2 legs, coming out and just erasing rules and changing them. And the sheep would all be sitting there clapping. And all the other animals were looking around. And no one said anything until the pigs eventually got up, went back in the house, and by that time, the time to say something was too late. And the book even ends with pigs and humans looking back at each other, and no one could tell which was which.
The example that he's giving there is you had the aristocracy. They overthrew the aristocracy because, you know, it had all the problems that aristocracies have and continue to have even today, the few that are left. And it was easy to get people on board to overthrow that. And ultimately, you know, as the story goes, as a story is told, you get to where they were in 1944. And that was with Joseph Stalin and the people going to the gulags who didn't agree with everything. And that's the comparison that's made, is nobody said anything until it was too late. And we'll develop that a little bit farther as the story goes along here and we make some comparisons. And you know, at one time, the sheep almost become kind of the instigators of support in the book. I don't think the fact that the sheep were the animal that he used to express that was by accident. Neither do I think that the pigs were an accident for the ones to become the oppressive leaders that they despised so much. And those reflections will through time, I believe this book will be prophetic, not just in the U.S., but it's also showing that it's reflecting what's happening in other countries as well, and some more than others. It is also kind of this. It's kind of a cautionary tale too of, you know, be careful what you wish for, or be careful, you know, the grass is always greener. And to me, I guess the way that I look at it as it has a lot to do with always fight for your principles, which goes back to why I always say that I'm not a fan of negotiations. I'm not a fan of compromises, and this is it when it in reference to politics. I don't believe that compromise is a good thing it seems to only benefit one side here in the United States anyway.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hard left does not do compromise, and we're going to talk about some of that coming up here in a second. So, if you haven't read Animal Farm, I highly recommend picking up a copy and giving it a read. You're going to... I think if you've been paying attention to anything that's been going on in American society, you're going to start to hear Twilight music in the back of your head as you read the book. And, I think the question that we want to ask ourselves is, how could the animals let it get to that point? You hear that question so much with so many different things. When we talk about, like, Nazi Germany, when we talk about the Stalinist Russia, when we talk about Mao's China, the question always seems to come up, how did the citizens let it get to that point? Well, I think Animal Farm did a pretty good job at kind of showing that. And I think we need to keep on asking ourselves that question. So throughout this episode, I implore you to ask the question, how did the animals let it get to that point? And I think you'll see a theme as we go in our show.
All right, so let's jump into the first example.
Yeah, let's just go.
that we've discovered here. I don't know if you want to. I'll lead with it. What the heck?
Yeah, go ahead.
April of 2020. Kind of the theme is going to be rules for thee, but not for me. We definitely didn't coin that phrase by any means. We're just using it as an example. We're going to start off with the amazing leader of Chicago, Illinois, Lori Lightfoot, in all of her grand wisdom. Beetlejuice herself. She makes these they put these mask mandates in place and say, hey, everybody's got to follow these rules. It's always for your own good or for the greater good. So right away, this is early. This is April of 2020, and she goes out and she gets her hair done, which I can't believe she pays somebody to do that. I'll have a picture posted on here. You can see it for yourself. But she goes out and does this, and just kind of blows it off. Violates her own stay-at-home order, violates her own mask mandate rules, and hey, she's a Democrat. She can do it. Gets away with it. Nobody really says too much.
Did you call her Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
If you say her name 3 times, does she pop out?
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Who's no ordinary ghost.
Lori Lightfoot.
I don't know. I don't want to test it out, though. No! She's a walking hypocrisy. She really is.
Oh,
I mean, she comes up again here.
I was gonna say if I remember correctly, I think she comes up a few times in here. Man, she is a gem. Let's keep going. After April, we got July 2020. Fauci goes to that baseball game where he makes probably the worst throw in any pitch ever. And then after that, he's seen up in the stands with his mask pulled down. And this is after he just said everybody should be wearing masks, but apparently he didn't mean him.
I know it's a little bit off subject, but I just want to talk about that throw just really quickly.
Do we have a video of it?
That was... Yeah, here's a video. It's exactly what I would expect. It is literally spot on. Like, when I seen that happen the first time, I was just... it's about right. That's what I expect from him. I mean, I know it's irrelevant to what we're talking about, but man, it's beautiful. That is a beautiful, beautiful throw. Great job, Fauci. You really, really, really hit it out of the park there. Almost got it across the
About
plate.
as good as his COVID policy. Moving on to September 20, we have Pelosi.
Yes, she's one of my favorite people.
The infamous Pelosi goes and gets her hair done out in a San Francisco salon as well. So a lot of getting your hair done. I know that that these people are in the public eye, and I understand that. But if you make rules for everyone else, I would assume that you meant yourself. Maybe you should have told us beforehand that you meant everyone but you. You know.
She literally, under no circumstance does she include herself as the regular, just a normal American citizen. She is much, in her mind, she is a supreme ruler. She can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and you should not question her. I think one of the things that she hates the most is the fact that she needs to be elected. That is just completely beneath her. She should be a permanent appointee to do whatever she wants, however she wants. One of the things with getting your hair done, that whole thing, that was one of the businesses that was targeted right away. They said, because your hairstylist is so close to you and whatnot. Apparently her ice cream dealer was good to go, though.
Do you remember her defense for that? I don't even think she said sorry or anything. I think she just went on and just said, "Oh, I felt like I was set up. So you should really apologize to me."
It's because the person she went to is the person that turned her in.
Oh man,
I'm pretty sure that's how that went down. Is the person that she went to turned her in and kind of sparked the whole story. I mean, she's a constant piece of work. I mean, the fact that people vote for somebody like her is just it's amazing. It is amazing. It is amazing. All right, let's move on to October 2020. Remember, we're still in last year. We're doing a recap of some just amazing examples of hypocrisy, and we have Dianne Feinstein. Remember, she's another just amazing leader out of California. She violates the mask mandates a number of times. She goes through airports, private terminals, never has her mask on at all. She went to the Facebook, Twitter CEO hearing, walked through there with no mask on, and then when it was brought up, she just pretty much told everybody, "Too bad, I don't have to follow the rules." She was very short on any answer with that whole thing. She's amazing.
We have so many examples of these that after that we have in November, remember still last year, Michael Hancock, which is the Denver, Colorado mayor, he decides that he's going to jet set off to Thanksgiving despite his own recommendations. If you remember, he said everyone should stay away from people. And he decided, no, I meant you, not me. That's so, I guess I should really just be assuming this when people say it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially, he was one of the big pushers of you shouldn't have more than 9 people in your home or 8 people, whatever the ridiculous rule was of how many people you should be allowed to have in your home. I think he might have been the one that was he the one that set up the hotline you can call if you see that your neighbors... Remember that? I don't remember who that was, but I know one of them did that. They're like, "Hey, turn them in," because that's a great thing to do to somebody you live next door to. Whatever. We'll go on to Andrew Cuomo. He cancels Thanksgiving in New York for everybody, and he just went and just did it himself. Hey, I don't have to follow any rules. I don't know if we had that in here about him putting all the people in the. I guess it's not really relevant. Putting all the COVID patients in the nursing home.
Yeah, I don't think it's relevant to the topic, but it's interesting that he goes to visit his 89-year-old grandmother, for Thanksgiving while he's in the middle of killing everyone else's.
I'm sure she wasn't in a nursing home.
She wasn't.
She wasn't. That guy.
Oh man.
Yeah. There's a lot that could be said just about him.
No, we could do an entire episode.
Man, he. During that whole the whole hey, I'm the czar of New York. Man, there was a lot of buzz about him running for president.
Yeah, I remember that.
During that time, remember that?
Yeah, sure do.
And man, Yeah, you don't hear anything about that now. Like that just kind of like disappeared. Like I wonder why.
Well, a lot of people try to say that it's, about his Me Too moment, but, I personally like to think that killing the old people for him was worse than, playing grab ass with his staff. That's just me, though. For now. If there's one thing that Andrew Cuomo has kind of shown us already, it's that you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And then you live even longer to see yourself become the hero again. And then you live even longer to see yourself get canceled. And mark my words, he's gonna live even longer to see himself make the comeback. We have not seen the rise of Andrew Cuomo.
As long as he gets the blessing of the party. If he gets the blessing of the party, then he'll do it. Absolutely. I overcame adversity and worked all. Yeah, we're getting a little off subject here, but I mean that's what we're going to see with Andrew Cuomo. He's not gone, and he'll be the most qualified candidate. You're going to hear that in the camp. I'm the most qualified candidate. Yeah, it's because you got kicked out of your governor's seat, goob.
It's going to be him and Whitmer going at it, and they're going to be like, "How many old people did you kill?" No, I killed more.
Oh, she's something too.
Oh,
Anyway, moving down the list. Yeah, she's on here. She's on here. Now again on November 20th, the amazing Lori Beetlejuice Lightfoot violates a mask mandate again. She's seen.
Who said it three times in Chicago? Come on.
I don't know, something. Yeah, she's stuck there now. But she's yelling into that blowhorn after the Biden victory, into that bullhorn. That was all over the news. She's just, I mean, people were standing all around her, but I mean, she doesn't care. She doesn't care about those people or the rules or. Well, and any of that, I mean, it's completely irrelevant.
Can you think of a better way to send COVID to a group of people than blowing in a blowhorn?
Yeah, it just...
Here you go. Oh, funny. Coming after that, it's still in November, though. Muriel Bowser, Washington, D.C. mayor, decides that she's going to violate her own mandate by dipping out to Biden's victory party. So, yeah, we see some people, not even violating their own rules, because I assume that their rules were meant for everyone else, but not for them. So she decided that she's going to take advantage of her privilege, and she's going to jet out to, where was it, Maryland? No, Delaware. Yeah, Delaware.
By her own order, Delaware was a high-risk state that required quarantine. Like, if you go to Delaware, you got to come back and quarantine for 2 weeks and whatever. But since it was, the Biden party, his victory party, that means that there's no COVID there. So she was okay to go.
Oh yeah, man, that is rich.
It's just like COVID can't be on a private jet.
Everybody knows COVID does not attack high-level Democrats.
We're gonna go talk about Newsom in California now.
Coming after that was the infamous French Laundry that he nearly got recalled for. Well, I'm sure that's not it, but I believe his poll numbers immediately dropped after the French Laundry incident. So, I mean, does this even need more explaining? He decided to go out to the French Laundry for dinner right after imposing his lockdowns. And yeah. Do you remember how much a plate was at the French Laundry?
No, I don't remember, but I know that it was a dinner for some lobbyist. So again, we can go ahead and do that, but all these small businesses and whatnot, we gotta shut them down. And but Gavin Newsom, man, he's immune to everything. He's immune to recalls as well.
Apparently. Gosh. Mussolini. Man, he does well.
How do you think he'll fare in the next election? Do you think he'll really...
Next, California?
I think he'll be fine, honestly. I think he'll just...
Yeah, it seems like he's got a pretty strong grip on the state. Honestly, California might as well just be the USSR of the United States. Because that's what they are.
We should build a wall around it.
They would probably be against that.
They're against everything. The only thing that they're for is complete insanity. That's like... That's it. They don't go for anything else. Just think of that. They could have had Larry Elder instead of Gavin Newsom.
That would have been so awesome.
That is... I mean, you just turned down a pro athlete for like a JV B team that doesn't even start.
Almost even worse than that. I like the comparison that you're going with there, but it's almost even worse than that because he seems to almost deliberately want to turn California into a hellhole. More than it is, I mean.
Well, the California politicians are doing a bang-up job. Absolutely just a bang-up job. You can't go into a restaurant, but you're free to take a dump out on the sidewalk in front of it.
Oh, speaking of California, that brings us to our next example. Still in California, we're talking about Sheila Kuehl, who was a LA County supervisor. She violates her own vote hours later by going to out to eat at a outdoor dining in LA after she voted to close outdoor dining.
Yeah, which affected 31,000 restaurants. And it's amazing. It's amazing her efficiency. I mean, she didn't want to let any time go between making the order and then violating her own rules with no repercussion. That's the one reoccurring theme you're going to have here is there was no repercussion. Some people kind of called them out on this stuff, but hey, they can do it. They're Democrats. They get a free pass. But she did it with just expedited efficiency.
Do you think she while she was voting, she's like, oh, should I do this? Man, but those fries are pretty good. Like, I'm gonna have to dip out of here right now to go.
There's a possibility that she didn't understand it. She could have been like, oh yeah, those people shouldn't do that. Where should I go for lunch? Like, just straight up, like, in her mind, just literally thinking that these rules are for all the underlings. That they just doesn't apply to her whatsoever. I mean, I could see that happen.
Do you think, like, she voted, she's like, yeah, they shouldn't do that, and then she's like, oh, crap, but that means my fries that I really wanted, I'm gonna have to go right now.
No, I think she knew it. I would go with that she had it in her mind that it didn't apply to her from the beginning. I mean... That's how these people operate.
Does the shoe fit? Yes. Yes, it does.
All right, let's move on to December. We're going to stay in California here for a little bit. Talk about San Francisco Mayor London Breed. Had their own French Laundry party. Now, that's the name of a restaurant in California.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous one, too. It's
for those...
Oh, I forget whose it is. Yeah, he's a very good chef.
It's like a celebrity chef's place. A chef, for those of you in Portland, is somebody who cooks food for a living. But anyway, so the San Francisco mayor also books a dinner party there, and goes there with a bunch of his cohorts. I would suspect old Newsom was there himself. I would guess. I don't know this for sure, but I'm gonna guess that he was there. It says here that he took a few days off after Election Day and joined 7 others the night of November. Oh, this was in November. Of November 7th.
Oh, no. So here's what happened. This happened in November, but the story didn't, catch up until December. Exactly. That's what happened, because this happened, I believe, the day after Newsom's visit to the French Laundry. Yep. That's how that went. Man, French Laundry must be good.
I would suspect so. I mean, you have a celebrity chef cooking, you know. Do we have another story from California? Wow, we just hit like 3 or 4 in a row here, didn't we? We just December, Sam Liccardo, he's the mayor of San Jose. He goes, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. He got caught attending a Thanksgiving meal with his family. After they said that you can't have more than however many people, whatever, you know, the gathering rules, putting a restriction on how many people can come to your own flipping house.
We have this as in December, but the story, you know, broke in December. This happened, obviously.
Right. Well, this is him coming out and apologizing. It says, in a written statement, Liccardo confirmed he and his wife were at his parents' home for Thanksgiving at an outdoor dinner on their patio where 8 people from 5 different households were in attendance. But he does go to say that those attending had their masks on while they were not eating. And most of the family members stayed home just out of caution. That reeks of BS all over the place. You know, the nosy neighbor next door used the hotline and turned him in. Is what happened. I think it's great that he had to release a statement apologizing for going to his parents' house for Thanksgiving. Think of how ridiculous that sounds. How utterly ludicrous the idea is that that's something that you need to apologize for. That's absolute stupidity. On an up note, it was his own stupid rule. So there you have it.
Well, I feel like the you know, he's just applying the do and ask for forgiveness rather than permission, right? Because everybody knows what the answer would be. But we just should have assumed that his rule meant everyone else, you're too stupid to understand what to do, so he has to tell you. And then, you know, he didn't mean him.
Oh, I absolutely believe in those people's minds when they vote on those rules and different things like that, that is the thought process that they have. I absolutely believe that that's a thought process that they have.
So coming up after that, we got December, still in December of 2020, we got Adler, who is the mayor of Austin. He decides that he's going to jet set off to Cabo. And mind you, this was right after he urgently told people to stay at home. But he's going to dip off to his timeshare in Cabo San Lucas, you know. Flew private jet, you know, with 8 others for a vacation. So, that must be pretty nice.
What's wrong with that?
Well, in theory, nothing's wrong with it, you know, but yeah, just maybe don't tell everybody that they can't do it.
April of this year, we'll finally move into 2021. We have the amazing Gretchen Whitmer traveling from traveling from Michigan to Florida.
Wait a minute, was this the time where she even like was blaming Florida for her own state being trash and their COVID numbers being high or something like that? Wasn't that it?
Yeah, because it says right here her doing this came weeks after the governor warned the public about taking spring break trips, particularly to Florida, amid a surge of coronavirus cases. You know, she just goes ahead and does it anyway after she already says, you know, oh, Florida's horrible, whatever. You know, Whitmer is.
Well, I guess I can't blame her, right? She had to take a little break from killing all those old people in Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, that's why she needed a vacation, right?
It gets tiring. I understand. No, actually, if I remember correctly, this one, she went and visited her elderly, like, grandfather.
Just wow.
I know. So when you add in that dynamic, she's busy, you know, off in all the olds. She's like, man, I better hurry up down to Florida because, you know, just in case DeSantis decides to become me, which everybody knows he won't because he's actually a good governor, and she's a piece of trash, but, you know.
Yes, she is. And then then there was another case with her the following month. So it was May, and she's caught
I mean, after that, I believe she like breaks her own rules back to back.
Yes, she did. Yep. She said, you know, don't travel anywhere, and then, you know, she does the mandates and closing down all the places and whatnot, and then here they find her hanging out at a bar with a bunch of other people with no mask on, you know, just not following her own rules. I mean, that's Democrat 101, right? I mean, if you're going to be an elected Democrat official, you know that you can make all the rules you want, but you don't have to follow them. They will not apply to you.
Man, that's another really, really great one. Just because, you know, again, she must be busy. It must be tiring, having to live with, deliberately, well, near deliberately, killing old people. You know, I get it. She wants to go to a bar, have a drink, be with some friends, take her masks off. You know, some of us have been doing that this entire time. But she decides that, you know, she needs to do it because it's probably really tiring. She's like, oh man, I gotta get out of this. Like, I've been so busy working. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work being a tyrant. You know, I mean, people are trying to get you out of there, and, you know, you got to think of creative ways to oppress, you know, the underlings and you know, the regular citizens. So I'm sure, yeah, she's just tired and fed up.
They say to work in a lot of R&R, and that helps you with your creativity process. So maybe for her, that was really her thing. You know, she just needed that drink, you know, at a place before she closed everything down, or, you know, while everything was closed down, so that she could just recharge her batteries, really come back to work, so she could she can double her killing. You know, I keep on reiterating this because this has been the Democrat policy in a lot of these blue states. Their policy directly led to the deaths of many old people, and that is the true reason that Cuomo got off. Not because of his Me Too moment. Yes, that is bad, but he got off because they would have had, the Democratic Party and the DNC would have had to have admitted that their policies directly led to more deaths, and they couldn't have that. So he was under investigation for it, and they had to get rid of him, so they got rid of them themselves so that they could preserve the rest of their policy, and that's why. So, I keep on harping on that because it's the truth and I don't want it to get lost.
Well, that's a valid thing, you know, like we've said before, is, hey, you know, you can't let this stuff go by the wayside. People need to keep talking about it because, you know, the media is going to try and sweep everything they can under the rug for him. You know, and then they're going to try and paint him as a hero.
They'll flip the news cycle, next news cycle, and let's go. And hopefully everybody forget. And, you know, to be honest, they're probably... I like their odds. They're playing an odds game that you are going to forget. And I think they're playing a good guy. For them, I think their strategy has been working.
Let's move on to July 21st with go back to Muriel Bowser. Man, every time I see her name, I just think of Mario trying to save the princess.
You think of King Koopa?
Well, his name was Bowser, the big turtle.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What did she do this time?
Spiky turtle. Yep. Well, you know, she makes a indoor mask mandate she imposed on D.C., and not 24 hours later, here she is officiating a wedding with no mask on.
Invested in me as mayor of Washington, D.C., which will someday be the 51st state. Now pronounce you husband and wife.
And then the media even tried to cover for her. She was interviewed by the Washington Examiner and said they asked her about it, and her handler just grabbed her and walked away with her, so she didn't have to answer it.
Mayor Bowser, how long have you been a Chicago fan? Mayor Bowser, what's your response to the backlash about you not wearing a mask?
I got guns.
Those homeless people, Mayor Bowser.
Man, that's good. And to think she's trying to be the governor of a state.
Of what, Washington, D.C.?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the hard left has their way, Washington, D.C. would be a state, and she would be the governor.
Oh. Yeah, well, that is definitely a subject for another episode, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
That would be bad. This one's good. So after that, we go to July of this year. When, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, but I don't know if our viewers remember, but the Texas Democrats decided that they were just going to not show up to vote on Texas's voting integrity laws, and instead they decided that they were going to jet set off to Washington D.C. On a private jet again. Man, there's maybe another little theme, and do it not only in private, but do it in with no one else wearing a mask. And there's a nice photo where we have the entire group of traitors wearing or without wearing a mask in their nice private jet, heading off to the federal government to try and ask for help, which they can't because you don't have any power here.
I really hope that those representatives pay in the next election cycle. I'm not confident at all that they will. I think that they're going to, they ran away for a number of weeks, ran out of special session. They called another special session. They finally came back. They lost the vote. I mean, they did it to avoid the quorum. But, logic would tell you that, people would be upset about that they'd be like, well, they just ran out on their own job, and they're not, they're choosing to not represent in any sort of dignified fashion at all. And you would think that they would, hey, they're going to pay for that in the come election time, but I really don't think they will. I think that will just go, it won't be brought up, and if it is, it'll be spun that, they did it for integrity and all these other different purposes, that we stood our ground and whatnot. But I really don't think that it's going to affect them.
Yeah, and to think these dunces want to sit here and lecture us about wearing masks while they decide to go on their private jet without one, while deliberately not doing their job that they were signed up to do. Oh, gosh. You see...
Maybe you're immune when you're on a private jet. I guess none of us know.
Apparently. Is that...
Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's why so many, these upper crust elites have private jets. It's because when you get on one, you're just automatically immune to every rule and law, and that must be it. That's the only thing. That's the only logic I can ascertain from the insanity.
You talk about not negotiating. This is a prime example of them not doing that. As in, the left, hard left, not negotiating. They don't negotiate. They would rather hop on their private jet, not wear masks around each other, even though that's what they supposedly believe, and jet set off and not do their duty. They would rather do that than come and talk. And it really makes you wonder, why should the Republicans negotiate? They shouldn't. There should be no negotiation.
No, they absolutely shouldn't.
Especially when it comes to this.
They shouldn't. Definitely not to the level that they do right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the problem is it seems to all be in bad faith. Until we're back in good faith with each other and we can actually have solid negotiations based on values that we all share. Until we have that, I'm really pretty pessimistic about where we're at. But let's keep going on. After that, we got August 2021. We have Barry's birthday bash. For those of you, I'm talking about Barack Obama, our former president. If you remember, he was going to have this massive birthday party for him and all of his Hollywood buddies. But it seemed...
Including Epstein. He is going to be there too.
Well, and maybe he was one of the ones that got taken off the list after they apparently trimmed the list down because it was bad optics to hold a massive rager while they're claiming that COVID is going to literally kill you.
Yeah, that's BS too. You know they didn't change that.
Oh, they
list.
didn't change a single
Those
thing.
liars. They didn't change anything. No, they just said that to try and recant. To try and make it look good. They went ahead and did that, and then everybody showed up there. They went there they flew there on private jets because that gains immunity, and then they're doing their whole thing. And what do? All of the wait staff is forced to wear a mask, but none of the attendees are.
Oh man, that is what a great image. I think we're going to see a similar image here towards the end of this kind of segment. Do we not?
Yeah. We'll see that again. But I mean that is a great example of blatant hypocrisy between the ruling class, between everyone else in the ruling class.
Oh man, that's solid. Well, after that, Beetlejuice herself decides that she's gonna pop up again.
Who's no ordinary ghost.
Dang, who keeps saying that 3 times? Lori Lightfoot decides that she's gonna go to a 400,000 person palooza and not wear a mask and do some more partying in Chicago right after.
See that it's not all her fault. That whole thing wasn't her fault.
What was
She was sitting at home doing whatever, and somebody said her name 3 times, and boom, she shows up on stage at Lollapalooza.
She's like,
I mean, it was out of her control. Completely out of her control. Man, she's the gift that keeps on giving. Man, she's the gift that... there's another example of her that I don't think made the list, was when she was pushing, the whole defund or let the rioters riot. And then she called all of the police to go protect her house.
Yep. Man,
what are you doing,
Chicago?
What are you doing?
Be better than that.
She'll get reelected.
Yeah,
you heard it here first, people. She'll get reelected.
Yep, and then we'll see Chicago at one point on the dumpster fire of the week.
The daily dumpster fire.
Daily dumpster fire.
It. All right, let's skip right to the an example, an amazing example by one of the most venerable people we have in politics today. It was really disappointing to see her in this situation because she brings so much experience and just flat out wisdom and honorable wisdom. And that is the Venerable Miss AOC. And I will exclusively refer to her with those 3 letters just because she says she doesn't like it.
But as we know,
she went...
pig. You bigot.
Yep, I guess that's me. She goes to the gala, to the Met Gala, which is for those of you who are a little unfamiliar with this show. The Met Gala is the Capitol in Hunger Games. I don't think that that is by accident. I really think that when that movie came out, they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we want to emulate. So anyway, she shows up in this tax the rich dress, and there's actually a number of photos of her completely unmasked, like all the attendees. But all of the servers and even the person that she has carrying her dress behind her like a slave into the gala is wearing a mask. But she is not. She is the gift that keeps on giving.
She is so honorable.
Goes to this wearing this tax the rich dress, and it was $30,000 for her to go there. I mean, this is definitely not new news by any means, and there's been a lot of people to cover this. But just keep in mind, we're covering this, showing examples of hypocrisy, and that is absolutely a fine example of leftist hypocrisy. That's right there at the top of the pinnacle.
I really think that this is near mirror image of an Animal Farm when the pigs are walking out on 2 feet. Because, I mean, when she says tax the rich, she doesn't mean her. She makes, $175,000, and that's not including any of the benefits. that she gets. Apparently, she thinks that she should be one of the celebrities, but she is a government employee. She's an elected official who feels that she should be in the company of celebrities. And that's how she acts. You know, I think this is a prime example. This is a great example. You know, she's like the Joker kind of chasing cars. She doesn't know what to do if she would like actually get one. Like if she were to actually get her policies that she wants, she wouldn't know what to do. Like I don't think she actually wants them in her heart of hearts, because if she got her way, I mean, she wouldn't be able to do these things. She wouldn't be able to play dress up and go to the Met Gala, mainly, you know, which is honestly a display of capitalism. Just saying.
Oh yeah, well you can't have leftist socialism and leftist policies without capitalism to support it. I mean that's a source of all the money, right? I mean the two have to. I mean if you're going to have socialism, you better have capitalism to fund it, or you run out of money. You just simply run out of money.
Then on top of that, she goes with the John Kerry defense of, you know, oh, well, I have to be here at the Met Gala, you know, eating all this expensive food with these really expensive dresses because I'm an important person and I need to be talking with these people. Yeah, that's her defense.
Oh yeah, the John Kerry defense of why are you flying a private jet all over the world talking about climate change?
Yes, that one. You know, and you know, I think it's hilarious because on top of all of this that we're talking about, she had to pass a BLM protest who was protesting the Met Gala to get into the Met Gala. I wish I had.
She didn't know who it was. She just thought it was the little people. Oh, you minions.
She's like, oh,
you have your
you
crazy
guys are
sign.
here to cheer me on. Thanks.
That's exactly. You just showed a snapshot of what goes on in her mind.
Oh my god.
It's exactly what happened.
I wish there was a picture of it.
Oh, look, they're here to cheer for me.
Oh
That's
my
great.
gosh.
Oh, that's
and the
great.
government wonder why we don't trust them.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
You know, all of these examples that we've been bringing up, they've all been about coronavirus. And the lockdowns. There are more areas that this continues to apply to. These were just immediate examples that we can all see, and maybe that's on purpose. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more. But these continue to apply. I mean, if anybody remembers back in the 2010s, when Congress passed Obamacare, Congress got treated differently under the laws than everyone else. Not to say that they were exempt under Obamacare, but they were absolutely treated differently.
Oh yeah, they were exempt from it. You know, they created their own loophole in the law there, so they didn't have to play by the rules. You know, we gave those examples, as you were saying, of what happened during the pandemic, and we just use that because that's fresh in everybody's mind. You know, the rules that were made are the rules that were made. I guess that's not really what we're discussing, the actual rule itself. The subject matter is really the fact that the rules are made, but not for the people who make the rules, and that's not how the United States works. That's literally not the point of our government. Those rules apply to everybody. Remember, all men are created equal, even the ones that are elected. You can't go ahead and make blanketing restrictions and not follow it yourself. Not only is it hypocritical, it breaks the trust that is already waning today in our country, and that's why we used the examples during the pandemic. It really has nothing to do with that subject matter itself. It's just, again, it's what's fresh in everybody's mind. But yeah, they made their own backdoor for Obamacare. Said, hey, everybody's going to have to do this except for us. And it went through. And you know, it was really, when that happened, a lot of people didn't really even seem that upset about it. I mean, people should be more upset about these little things, and we'll get to that again in a moment. Another example is these BLM riots that we had going on, kind of at the same time. It seemed like that was cool with everybody. I mean, hey, they can have these riots, and they never really prosecuted anybody for them, because it fit the leftist agenda. And something happens on January 6th, and now they want to go at them with guns a-blazing, and it's another great example of hypocrisy, and not much seems to happen.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on top of that, I specifically remember during those riots when there were public health experts trying to say that, we don't condemn these gatherings because they're in support of some other public health. It's just all BS. It's more rules for thee, but not for me. That's really what it comes down to, especially when it comes... I mean, even BLM themselves contradict themselves. Well, which shouldn't make anyone surprised, because they are a Marxist organization. They've literally said it themselves. I mean, you don't take my word for it. You can go find it. The founders are Marxists. That's what they are.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're the militant wing of the Marxist agenda. That's exactly it. And the people at the top of it are making just a pile of money off of it, just like Stalin did. Just like Lenin did.
And I think the hypocrisy kind of a BLM, it really, you don't have to dig too far before you find out that their co-founder decided to go buy millions in property in California. Patrice Cullors went and bought like $3 million in private property, including a private jet hangar. Well, I mean, everybody's got to get a private jet because, apparently you can't get the virus there. And claims that, it's hers. She can go and buy that. But, all of you peasants, stay your place. And...
It's missing context.
Yeah, well, see... That's the other thing. The fact checkers are gonna come and try and say, oh, well, this is missing context because the money hasn't been directly linked to donations. That's not the point. It's not about the linking donations. It's the fact that she tries to make this big to-do about America being systemically racist, while she at the same time goes and takes the money that she profited from saying that and goes and buys millions of dollars in property. If that isn't hypocrisy, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean, part of the reason why the hypocrisy is just allowed to just go uncontrolled like that is right now we have one of the hypocrisy kings as the president of the United States. He is a walking example of hypocrisy at its finest. I mean, some of the things he has said and done in the past, we can go back to 1977. When they were doing, the forced busing to desegregate the schools, and he was against it because he didn't want his children to grow up in a racial jungle, which incidentally, Kamala Harris. Remember when she was
just
running
about
against
to
him?
say this. Is this the she?
And
This is
she
what
brought
she
that
was
up?
referring to.
Yeah. And she's like, I was one of those kids. No, she wasn't.
No. There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
It's the timeline doesn't line up with her age. She wasn't. It's because she's a liar just like him.
Just to sidetrack for a second there, you remember when she said all of those things? Oh, he's a racist and he's sexist. But this was while she was running for a campaign, which she did horribly at. But, while she was on the stage when they were in their debate, she was saying that, oh, he's this racist guy who wanted to who wanted segregated busing. And he's also, a sexist, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But she says all of these things. And then later when she gets onto his ticket, The media asks, "Oh, well, why did you say all of those things? Do you not still think that?" And she says, "Oh no, I was in a debate." Like, what? Okay, and
Context.
Oh yes,
That's my context.
Context. I'm sorry. Were we missing some there? What else? What else do we have?
And we got a number of things here, but there's one of the things, and I actually looked this up. I'll see if I can find that video of that. That might be a hard video to find, but he says he was being asked by, I forget where he was, but he was somewhere like where he was out to an event or something, and he stops by this convenience store, and he says, and I'm sure we're missing the context, but you cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
Yeah, I seen that video of him saying that. It's just, what possesses a person to say that? Especially on camera, like he's being interviewed, by somebody. Like, you're on camera, first of all. I mean,
when was that?
2006.
Oh, so that's like before
he
he started even on his decline. Man.
Right.
Man,
right.
that's solid.
Yep. Well, yeah. And then in 2007 he says he refers to old B-Rock Obama as the quote, the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean.
The first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Wait, that was 2007, so right after 2006. Man.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really wonder what was going on there. I mean, what is going on in that person's mind? I mean, he also did the "You Ain't Black" thing, which I'm sure everybody out here, everybody who's going to watch this has seen that one.
I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
But there's also a thing about him that I find really, really amazing, and it is a little bit outside of the subject of the show. But when he did the eulogy for Senator Robert Byrd, I strongly suggest to people watching, if they don't know anything about him, to look him up. He was very open about his involvement in the KKK. I believe he was a Grand Dragon. And Biden refers to him as one of his mentors, and that he was this great person, and I believe there's a statue of him in Washington D.C. as well. Senator Robert Byrd was just an absolute piece of crap. He had no business in American.
Well, Byrd is the one that holds like the record for the filibuster, doesn't he? Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I forget how many hours
it was. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was long, but I guess that kind of makes sense, with if we look back at 1977 when Joe is going against desegregated busing. That he probably does look at him as a mentor.
Oh yeah, because that's kind of the basis of his early politics, right? I mean that was the position that he held on everything, and they're trying to sweep that all under the rug now. They don't want anybody to know about that. But I got to say one more thing about, and we are getting a little off subject here, but my favorite line of Joe Biden's is when he says, and I don't remember the situation for this one either, but he said, "Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids."
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Now, I just struggle how the wording, and I don't know that he deliberately worded that. Yeah, he did. He did. He deliberately worded it that way. But I mean, he knows he's on camera when he says this stuff. I mean, what is he? You know, and I kind of wanted to bring some of this stuff up as we started talking about it, because this is things that need to be remembered, needs to be talked about. People need to keep this fresh, because that is how the left operates. And when you let it die, it's dead and it's gone, and you know the media is never going to bring it back up, and you know they're never going to ask about it as a debate question, as why on earth would you say something this flipping ridiculous? That will never come up. But that is so stupid to say. I mean, it's stupid to think that way, and let alone say it.
I don't think this is really off topic at all, because here's why. The Biden administration has directly said that they put equity, specifically racial equity, aka racial communism, at the center of their agenda. And you have the history of all the things he says. He says things like, poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. He said, if you have trouble for whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. He says things like, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes and different things.
What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
I mean, I'm not the one saying this. He is. And, you know, I think it becomes the point of the rules for me but not for thee, when he gets to say all of these things, and then he gets to pretend that he's going to put racial equity at the center of his administration. Here's the truth. He does not look at anyone of color, anyone, period. He only looks at you as a vote. That is it. That is all you are to him. And if he has to say that he's putting racial equity at the middle of it, well, sure, sweet. If this guy could be a racist and be president at the same time, that's what he would be.
Well, there was a time where that was completely acceptable by the left. Where you could openly be an open racist and say, oh, I'm a member of this group.
I need to correct myself, because you can be a racist. He is a racist. It's true. That's what equity is. Equity is racism in the end. You are taking from one race and giving to another based on race. You think that one is superior to another. So in the end, it is.
Well, we have a few more to cover here. I don't know if we're going to make it through all of them. We might. We talked about John Kerry and his flying the jet all over the world to offset or to fight climate change. We talked a little about Cuomo's situation, and I guess one of the things that that we can kind of put together with this whole pointing out the hypocrisy here is, and I've said this before, is the reason why people are saying now, oh, well, they don't even try to hide the hypocrisy. Oh, you see it so rampant now. You just see it. It's that's not because there's it's a more commonplace thing, or it's getting reported more, or because of how everybody's connected through social media and whatnot. There's cameras everywhere, and it's not because of that. It's because there's so much hypocrisy, because the point is the hypocrisy. The point of doing this, and a lot of these things are done deliberately. It's to say, hey, I make the rules here. I decide who follows them, and they do not apply to me. The point of hypocrisy from the left is the hypocrisy. They keep doing this, and they keep doing this because they know that, one, conservatives will do nothing about it. And secondly, they do it to show dominance and control. They can do this and continue to be reelected. They can do these things with no ramifications. And a lot of the times it's small things. They're going to do, like the death by 1,000 cuts thing, where it's just another little thing, it's another little thing, it's another little thing, it's another little thing. And that is the reason why having people who are willing to negotiate, and now when I say negotiate, I mean on a political level. Conservatives always lose in a negotiation. You can win the short-term fight, but they're going to lose the long game because they do not look at this as being a war the way that the left does. If they lose on a subject, in their mind, it's not over until it's their way. And when you have conservatives who are not willing to stand their ground and fight the fight unending and not work in a bipartisan way, not reach across the aisle, not willing to negotiate and willing to do all those things that is all the catchphrases of conservatives today, we need to have people who aren't going to do that, because it is an unending fight to the left. It is unending, and they are going to do it little by little by little by little. And until we have people who are going to fight that, that's going to be the way it is. That is going to be what we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and ultimately fighting a losing game, which is part of the reason why I'm always so pessimistic about, these leftists doing these types of things and continuing to get reelected. And, like I'll say, oh, well, I don't believe that conservatives are going to hold a majority even after the midterms because of those things. That's just that's where we've gotten to be because of the moderates out there. And unfortunately, it's put us in these positions.
The government and their propaganda wing wonder why people don't trust them. And I don't know. It's wild. Yeah, I can't think of any reason why no one would trust a single word that comes out of their mouth. Maybe it's because they blew all of their credibility. They have no humility. They have no self-awareness. They spend time projecting, and they're completely out of touch with reality.
And why are we here? How did we get to this? How did we get to that point? How did we get to this place right now?
That's a great question.
We got to it because of the moderates. We got to it because there's very few moderate liberals. There's very few moderate Democrats. There's one right now who's saving us.
Joe Manchin, savior of the Republic.
But yeah, pretty much. But you know what I mean? Whenever there's a moderate, it's a moderate conservative. It's a rhino or a conservative who votes for leftist policies.
I do still think that there are classic liberals out there that do still believe in the founding principles of this country. I think that they're still around, and which is why I do try to make a distinction between the hard left.
They're not in politics.
Well, either that or Piglosi has something so bad on them that they have to fall in line. But I try to make the distinction here. Yeah, right. I try to make the distinction here between liberals and the hard left. When I refer to the hard left, I am specifically referring to the neo-Marxists that are currently in our society. I don't mean the people who still believe in the founding principles of this country that happen to align more left. Yeah, I don't see how you quite do that. But in the end, that's not who I'm talking about. When I talk about the left, I'm specifically referring to the Marxists that are among us. And George Orwell knew that this stuff matters. And I guess my question is to the people who aren't hard left and to the people who aren't political hacks. How much more evidence do you need at this point? Why does the American hard left not, or the American liberals, why do they not hold the elite accountable? Do you think, is it because you think that there are some breadcrumbs that are going to fall to you from the table, kind of like a dog? Is that what you're waiting for? Is it because they're ignorant? I get that corporate media and social media and their fact checkers, they're all a part of it because they desire to be a part of that ruling class. But I mean, if you paid attention at all for the last however long, you have to have seen it. I mean, between Biden, Pelosi, and Bernie, they've been in government for a combined 128 years. When you talk about the system, they are the system. So I'm skeptical that you don't know it. So, which brings me to this kind of theory. You know, and I would hate for it to be that way, but do you just overlook it because you have adopted this hybrid Marxist utopian view that has literally been fed to you by the media and by academia and by just the whole left's machinery? You know, it's not about the reality that we have now. You know, is it because of what you would like or what the theory is instead, the utopian vision? You know, that would certainly explain why communists like Bernie Sanders has just now, you know, he's been in office for over 40 years, but just now he's coming to popularity. And I think we can agree that the American left has a unhealthy obsession with what people think, what other people think about them. And that leads to this bizarre spectacle of people doing almost ritualistic things to appear virtuous, you know, and blatantly willing to overlook hypocrisies from their intellectual elite just so they can, in my opinion, feel morally superior, which they aren't. I mean, they're just not. John McWhorter, who's a professor at Columbia, even makes this argument that part of the hard left's platform is actually religious in every way, but being called a religion. And I think that would help explain why you see so many of those virtue signaling acts, you know, almost be religious and almost be ritualistic. I don't even know if it's almost. They are ritualistic and they are religious. You know, I think that gives us some more insight into the hard left's reasons for their intellectual, you know, elite. You know, they want to hate their neighbors. Regardless of how nonsensical, ascientific, unethical those reasons are, they want to hate non-believers of their religion that they're following. And for whatever reason is convenient at the time. Doesn't matter. That's why they want to censor people. It doesn't matter. They just want to pick up the club and hit you with it and trying to hit you into submission because they want to feel morally superior, because they are in the end, they're following a religious type of view. And I hope that you don't fall into it. And, you know, the hard left, they want to pretend like the world started spinning with Donald Trump. And that's just not true, okay? A lot of people like to say, oh, well, you have Trump to blame for this. No. Donald Trump is an outgrowth from this attitude. But them pretending that this came from Donald Trump, that's just another way of trying to club you into their religion. They're just trying to club you into it. It's just another club. Convenient. The truth is this has been brewing for years. And it really kind of the flame got fanned under Barack Obama. You can see it with the rise of Bernie Sanders. The American right felt this animosity, I would say, prior to 2016. And that's why Donald Trump came in. You know, he was a big middle finger to that attitude that the American right has been feeling. In fact, I called it years before. My buddy, a buddy of mine, thought I was ridiculous. He even posted a Facebook post about it. And, you know, I got to go back and say, oh, well, this didn't age well. But the truth is anybody who was, you know, kind of paying attention, you know, you could see that this was brewing. And the left's ire for him is not because of him. The left's ire for Donald Trump is not because of Donald Trump. Instead, he is a stand-in for the ire that they just have for the American right as a whole. That's what that is. It did not start with Donald Trump. He was just a stand-in.
So, I mean, that goes back to, you know, the reasoning on why we can't continue to compromise and continue to ignore the little things. You can't continue to ignore when they want to change the language that's used for different reasons and the descriptions of things, the word game that they play with all sorts of different things. We can't stand for that. We can't continue to compromise on the little things. And we give these examples. I just want to throw it out there for everybody. We gave a bunch of examples of this. If you have any examples yourself, put them in the comments. Especially the kind of like the weird ones. If you know of a local elected official or somebody from a school board or whatever, that's where a lot of the really great examples of this comes from, because those people will take a lot more liberty to be completely off the wall because they're not under the public. They're not going to make it onto the news. So if you have any examples of that, just put them in the comments. Maybe we'll, if we get some good ones, we'll talk about it. We need to constantly be aware of the hypocrisy and how hypocrisy is used as a weapon against the right, and we need to we can't compromise. People do not compromise.
I want to tap on that as well. I want to speak to kind of the squishy conservatives, because I know what they're going to try and say. They're going to be over here trying to say, they're going to do the ruling class works for them. They're going to try and say, yeah, but both sides do that. I can already hear it. And I want to speak to that because, firstly, no, they don't. And secondly, and more importantly than that, is who has all the institutional power right now? Because it isn't conservatives. Hasn't been for a long time. And the hard left has seized the reins of academia. They've seized the reins of most of government. I mean, they literally hold a majority in every branch of government right now. And they have the media. They are now taking part or taking ownership of a lot of corporate America. So, that makes a huge difference. And part of that is the result of the lie that the hard left would just love for you to swallow down, and that but both sides do it, because that right there, that will keep you comatose, and that's the point. It's been far too long that we've held each other and our elected officials specifically accountable, and we cannot let these things be forgot. Because it's these little things that keep happening. It's the little death by 1,000 cuts, like you said, that has us now, I would say, in general, feeling like freedom hasn't been as fragile as it has now. And I just gotta say, America we are the best country in the world, not because of all the things we have, but because of the rights we have. There's a reason why freedom fighters in Hong Kong, in Cuba, anywhere else where there's tyranny, that they carry the American flag as their symbol of freedom and rising up against oppression. It's no coincidence that that's how it is. It's no coincidence that people who come here from Cuba or come here from other persecution, they tend to be some of the most American people I know. And it's because they've seen what truly happens under tyranny. And we have to keep it this way. To quote Ronald Reagan, we'll preserve for this the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. And it starts with accountability, not letting these things be forgotten, and not rising up to these things, because I couldn't agree more. The hypocrisy is the point. They want you to know that the rules are for you, not for them. That's the point. So I just got to ask one more time. I asked at the beginning, and I want to ask one more time. How did the animals of Animal Farm let it get that far? It came from everybody not saying anything.
All right, we're going to add a new segment to the show. We're going to do the Daily Dumpster Fire. Now, there were a couple contenders to actually take the crown of the Dumpster Fire of the day. Portland, you're always on the list, and AOC, you're right there with them. If you're going to deliver what you're going to deliver, you're always going to be on the list to be the winner of the Daily Dumpster Fire. But today's winner is going to go out to Australia. Now, Australia, you've done a bang-up job. You are very deserving of the Daily Dumpster Fire Award. And how did you get that way? Well, It's going to go back to enforcing your lockdowns in an absolutely tyrannical way, which, however, they are allowed to do since, they still recognize a queen and a royal family. We made our decision in 1776. It's time you make yours. So
they got on this list by treating their citizens like they're animals.
Well, yeah, and they literally have. I mean, they've put together these restrictions. Now, keep in mind, we're going to run through some of the restrictions that they put in place, and they started these restrictions when there was just a few hundred cases. As of now, last time I looked, I believe they're right around like 1,200 deaths from the virus, I believe, where the entire country is. Keep in mind, that's 25 million people. And now we're seeing protests in Melbourne that just going off the rails.
Police move in fast to tackle and arrest. As anti-lockdown and anti-mandate protesters are grabbed on the tan. They had been loud and defiant, gathering in the Royal Botanic Gardens before walking the streets and blocking some. Walking the same path where Demons supporters gathered last Sunday to celebrate without police intervention.
Many young families are concerned, especially about giving it to our children when we have no long-term safety data on this.
At best, you're running the risk of generating more transmission. At worst, you're creating, you're fueling a bonfire.
As the group crossed over St Kilda Road, again police formed a line across all lanes to stop the group from going back to the shrine. It wasn't a target today like last week, but police were there just in case. Instead, the group circled for almost an hour.
Our body, our choice!
At times disagreeing on their direction. Well outnumbered by police before they moved in from behind to stop the illegal gathering.
Guys, start making arrests on the rear line and stay together.
Officers grabbed a few to disperse the rest.
Please stay, mate. Do you have anything on you? Peaceful protest. Listen.
This man says he lost his job in construction.
We're not here to cause violence. We're here to fight peacefully for our rights.
You copped a fine, you're going to pay it?
No, I'll contest it because it gets dropped.
Police now facing the issue themselves. They're part of yesterday's vaccination mandate for more than 1 million authorised workers.
And they've continued to extend the lockdowns. I forget where they are right now with their lockdowns. 240 some days, maybe 230 some days.
Yep. I think they still have it locked down to like October 15th, so they still got a ways to go. But I don't know if they're easing up now. But they deserve it. Let's keep going.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've done this, and they've done it not in a way that the United States has, did that either. Not even close.
That's because we have a thing called freedom. I know that's wild, Australia.
Right, and Australia also willingly disarmed themselves. Their citizens willingly gave away all of their protection from the government. So they're on a full lockdown. You can't go more than 5 kilometers from your residence, which is about 3 3/4 miles or so. Period. Like, that's as far as you can go from your house. And you can only leave for certain reasons. So some of these reasons, actually, these are all of the reasons. These aren't even some of the reasons. You can leave to buy groceries and medicine, to access healthcare, for work that's deemed essential. Now, I don't have a list of what is deemed essential, but I know there's very few people who fall in that category there. You are allowed to have 2 hours a day for exercise outdoors, but again, you have to stay in that 3 and 5 kilometer radius. You can leave and be outside to get a COVID-19 test or a vaccination. Now, they stop you, and you have to prove that that's why you're outside. You can only be accompanied by no more than 2 members of your family, and if you're a single person, you can be accompanied by a person that they call a single bubble, which is another person that you actually have to go online. I went on the website. You have to go on the website and you register this person as your person that's in your single bubble, and you have to be registered with each other to be this person. One household or up to 5 people can gather outdoors for up to 2 hours, and that's again for the outdoor. So it can't be more than 5 people in a general area.
You know, I think they were even telling people that they weren't supposed to talk to each other during that either, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that could be. And I also believe that as of last week, I think they changed that to 1 hour instead of 2 hours. But I'm not 100%
nice.
certain. I listened to a whole bunch of information on that beforehand. So they are not allowed to leave their homes between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. for whatever reason. I don't understand why they picked that time. Now this is also enforced by the military, and the fines are $3,700. That's what we have here. I know that's changed. It's changed to 5,000 Australian dollars, which is about 30. Yeah, it's about that, 3,900 American dollars. They have locked this down on a level that's kind of unbelievable, especially considering where they were in the outbreak. They locked down the entire country. Now you keep in mind of how massive Australia is. I mean, it's huge, and they were locking down people on the other side of the country with no cases at all. They hadn't had any cases at all, and now they're experiencing the riots. Didn't you have an update on this as far as how they're tracking people, where they go and whatnot?
Oh, yeah. So in South Australia, the government is requiring you to download an app to your phone, and that app uses facial recognition and geolocation. And then the state is going to send you a text randomly that you have to respond to in 15 minutes with a photo of where you are, proving that you're at home. And if you don't do that, then authorities come and show up at your home. This is the type of stuff that happens when you decide that your freedoms come from your government.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
The stuff that happens when you decide that that's what happens. You see, people want to say that Western culture is all the same. It is not all the same. America is the only place that has decided that our freedoms come from nature, nature's God, or God. All of those, and that governments are instituted to protect those freedoms. That is the difference between America and all other so-called Western countries. Because nobody else has that. All of them decide that their freedoms come from government. And it's not true, and this is the type of stuff that happens. And that doesn't even talk about the quarantine camps that they're building. We don't even have that in here.
No, we don't. It's hard to find information about that. I watched
I'm sure it is.
I watched a video that where somebody was doing a Zoom interview of a friend of theirs in Australia, and they said that there's a number of them, but it's really hard for people to get any information on any of that or see any of that happening because they can't be more than 5 kilometers from their residence, so that nobody can go anywhere.
This is a commitment by the Wagner family working with the Queensland government to say to the people of Queensland, we want to keep you safe. And the best way to keep you safe and to keep Delta out of Queensland is to build as quickly as possible a regional quarantine facility. I have listened to Queenslanders. I know how much they support a regional quarantine facility to be in Queensland. They want their community kept safe. That's what they're saying to me, and we are delivering it. This is a race. We are up against a highly infectious Delta variant that's sweeping the world. We don't know what's next. We need to get these facilities up and running, and everybody has seen how successful Howard Springs is.
You know what I find interesting? Australia claims that they're going to let up these restrictions after they reach their vaccination number. I have a quick question. Why would you build quarantine centers that aren't going to be done for 4 years if you're going to let up on your restrictions?
That is so suspicious. I don't know what's going on there. I know there's a bunch of conspiracies around it. That really does abandon logic. I mean, it really, really does. But we also have to keep in mind when we talk about this that you and I are going to take a very American view of what's going on there, right? We have to keep in mind that they recognize a monarchy, that they willingly still pay unrepresented taxes to England. You know, they're about that life. Where here we're not. I mean, that is counterproductive to self-governance. It's hard for us to register that in our minds. So, you know, they're very conformative country. They're going to conform to what the government tells them. The government told them to bring in their guns. They'll buy them back from them. They did it. They didn't even ask questions about it. They just did it. And so from an American side, it gets a little bit difficult to understand that.
You know, and we've been talking about, at least in our last segment, we were talking about how death by 1,000 cuts, how these are just like little steps. Well, Australia has succumbed to that. This they didn't get all of their freedoms ripped away from them just when COVID started. No, they willingly gave up their guns in a mandatory buyback that has not been shown to decrease their gun crime, or at least at the very minimum it had a questionable effect. And that was in the 1990s. Furthermore, they added in surveillance legislation. They added in hate speech legislation, which isn't a legally recognized thing here in America. Thank God, it never should be. But we talk about these death by 1,000 cuts. This is an exact example. Look at Australia. That's what happens when you slowly erode your freedom, or you put your head in the sand and say, I'm not into politics, or politics doesn't matter, or it's not a big deal to me, or you think that giving up these little things doesn't matter. Over time, it accumulates, and now Australia is at the point where where their government has a legal monopoly on violence against disarmed citizens. And they can't do anything about it.
Oh yeah, they're checking your papers just like they did in Nazi Germany. You got to have your papers. You got to have I mean, that's literally what they're doing. If you're outside, that's what they're going to do. They're going to stop you, and you better have all your things in order, or they're going to arrest you, and you're going to go to jail. I have the numbers right here. As of today, there's been roughly 110,000 cases of COVID and 1,321 deaths in all over the country. Now, I don't want to devalue those people that died, but that is a very, very, very low percentage compared to the 25 million and change that live in Australia. It seems very extreme. You know, it's just very, very extreme. The one thing I kind of want to go away with this is I wonder if this will spawn a rebellion against Britain.
What are we in? 1776?
No, we already did that here. Right. I mean, but, you know, Australia and Canada are very similar to each other that way. You know? I just wonder... Yeah, I just wonder if that's a reality we could see. I mean, you know, countries have separated from Britain in recent history. I mean, Scotland just did it not that long ago. I mean, you know, it could definitely be done. I don't know to what depth, and it's hard to research it. The origin of these rules. I kind of feel like it's the people of Australia that are implementing a lot of these rules on themselves rather than England. I don't know that that's actually the case, because they're not doing that to that extent in England.
No, they aren't. This is the Australian people implementing these on themselves. And I don't know if they're proud of it or not. But I know some of them aren't, because we have a lot of horrifying footage coming out of Australia. And the police state that they are really implementing on those who decide to use their better judgment.
Yeah, and again, as you said before, people don't realize the freedoms that we have here. They're going to go as so far. Now, you're going to hear it here first, people. They are going to make it illegal in Australia to say anything bad about what they're doing. I guarantee you that's what they're going to do. if you say anything negative about the lockdowns, if you say anything negative about any of the stuff that they're doing, the quarantine centers or any of that stuff, they are going to arrest those people for saying that stuff. That is the next step. And I would say that will be here in the not too distant future, in the next couple months at the most.
Taking notes from China, I see.
Yep, you bet.
Oh, that's good.
Taking notes from the leftist playbook, 1984.
Or from Animal Farm.
So, there we have it. The first winner of the Daily Dumpster Fire, Australia. You did a bang-up job taking out first place.
Well, I just want to say, if you have any more, if you have any suggestions for Daily Dumpster Fire, if you have any suggestions for segments or topics that you'd like to see us cover, please put them in the comments section below. We would love to interact and hear what you have to say. Please.
All right, that wraps up another episode of Just Two Brothers. Thanks for watching.
Just Two Brothers.